Good afternoon, and welcome to a special Dia de los Muertos edition of our live artist talks. My name is Joy Davis, and I'm the manager of the Adult and Community Programs Department here at the Walters Art Museum. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Carlos Gutierrez and José Reyes, two local cultural ambassadors and dance directors who share their traditions through dance. Welcome, José and Carlos. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And so I figured we could start with a few images. We're going to start with you, Jose, and I have a few questions for you all. I also want to mention for folks that want to join in on the conversation, if you are on YouTube or Facebook, you can, of course, ask questions, leave comments, kudos to the wonderful people I'm talking to today. So I'm curious if you could start, Jose, by telling us about your individual dance troupe, what are their names, and what did the names mean?
Sure. So in 2008, I started Bailes de mi Tierra, and Bailes de mi Tierra translated into English means Dances of Our Land. And it's a folk dance group based in Baltimore, where obviously we do traditional dances from Mexico, but over the past several years, we've added dances from the countries of Colombia and Puerto Rico, and we're still expanding. In 2008, what we started off with 6 dancers in our dance group practicing out of a garage. Now in 2020, we're up to 30 plus dancers practicing out of the Archbishop Boarder School in Highlandtown. So we're, 10 years, actually 12 years now, and we're just continuing to grow.
That's wonderful. And what about you, Carlos?
Well, Danza Guadalupana started in 2005, May 2005, with only 6 dancers. We started dancing at St. Patrick Church in Baltimore. And we started practicing in a retreat where, like, when they were having their own thing on one side, I was trying to motivate the young kids to join a group when there was no dancers around the neighbor. So it was a couple of friends that decided to join.
And I'm curious for you both, what inspired you to do this? I know you mentioned, Carlos, that there wasn't a neighborhood specific group, and you wanted to fill a need there. But I'm curious for you, Carlos, what was the impetus, the genesis of you creating your group?
One of the motivations and what inspired me at that time, it was one way to thank God. That's the way I thank God in Our Lady of Guadalupe, by dancing. And another motivation was my parents. They both pushed me to say, hey, why don't you start a group? You used to do it when you were like on a short age, and why don't you start doing it? So it was actually my dad, the one that kind of like put me on one spot where they need a dance group in December, and he like, oh, my son has a dance group. At that time, I didn't have anything, and they just throw me and they're like, okay, he's gonna do it, so I have to push myself to do it.
And what about for you, Jose?
Sure. So in 2005, after I married and relocated from DC to Baltimore, there were no other dance groups that I knew of. I did come across 2, and I did stay, I would say, short months with them, trying to find somewhere to fit, because after several years of not dancing, my feet were itching to get back into dance. But luckily, I met a wonderful couple, Nancy and Martin Casillas, who were part of another group, who introduced me to the next group that I would be a part of, which was a folk dance group. But again, after maybe like 2 or 3 months with them, I just decided, it was time for me just to step back. But they convinced me if I formed my own group that they would follow me. So they were my first 2 to join me when I formed the group. And it's just been, for me, it's been a blessing. 12 years in now, and we've just grown from those 6 to, like I mentioned earlier, to 35 dancers. And one thing I forgot to mention, our mission is to preserve, promote, and present not only Mexican traditions, but Latin American traditions throughout the community. We've been fortunate enough to dance in Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia.
That's wonderful. That's a pretty wide net that or group that you're working with, and different experiences within that. So we have an image here. Before I click over, I wanted to know if you all could introduce, and maybe briefly, before we see these videos, what kind of dances do you usually incorporate in your presentations? And if you could set up these videos for us. I think our first video is from you, Jose. So if you could intro us there, and then we'll, if Carlos, you could then follow up with your group and your step-by-step guide that you give us.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So our group, we have dances from various states of Mexico. One of them being the state of Veracruz, state of Jalisco, Chihuahua. We have Sinaloa. This year we're adding the states of Chiapas and Guerrero. But each particular state has each representative dance, and each state has its representative costume. So what we try to do, we try to provide a rich representation of each state through the costumes. And something I was mentioning behind the scenes before we joined, each particular state has its variation of costumes. You have your formal costumes for stage performances, but then you have your backyard costumes for, way back in the day when the workers came off the fields, off the plantations, they would play music and the dancers would join in. It was their way of relaxing and just, unwinding for the day. But what you see on stage is more of a cleaned up version of what was started off very rurally. The montage you're about to see highlights our 3 dance groups. We have our youth group, which are ages, let's say, from 7 to 10 years old. Actually, no, 7 to 13 years old, 15 years old. And then we have our kids group, 5 to 7, and then our adult group. So I hope you enjoyed the montage. This is a highlight reel of last year's performance, which I think today is probably one of our best performances at the Walters Art Museum for Dia de los Muertos. So I hope you enjoyed this piece.
Good job.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it also, not to be a little corny or cheesy, but it is like a blast from the past, and you can really see kind of the maybe not even evolution, but just kind of the staying power of cultural work and community work, and how much it's grown through what you've done. And so the next video that we will show is a tutorial video that Carlos put together for us. And I was wondering, Carlos, if you could give us a couple of sentences about what we are about to see.
I'm gonna show you easy step that we have for so you guys can try at home. I know right now it's a tough time to get together, but you guys can try this at home. I made it the simple step that you can try your kids. You can save it, and maybe in the future you can join in my dance group. I don't know. I mean, Jose got, like, I used to be in Jose's group, so like either one, we're open always for new people, kids, adults, anybody, family together. We're a big group together. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
Thank you.
Everyone, I'm Carlos Gutierrez, and I'm the director of the local dance group Danza Guadalupana. And today I'm going to share an easy step that you can try at home. This step is called El Brinquito, which means the little jump. This kind of dance, it's important part for Dia de los Muertos because it represents our culture and connects our religious belief. Our dances use drums, maracas, and a handmade instrument made by me called el arco. It's a bow and arrow. My siblings, Jorge Gutierrez as the drummer, and my sister as the dancer. Thank you. I hope you enjoy. What we're gonna do? I'm gonna teach you this step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the first step we're gonna do is 1 and jump back. Second, and then count 1, 2, 3. At the last step, you're gonna hit or you're gonna clap. So let's do it again. So first step, 2, 1, 2, 3. First step, jump back, 2, 1, 2, clap. Again, 1, 2, 1, 2, clap.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that work that you all do, and also how varied it is. Because something that I think about all these presentations is that your work is varied, and it speaks to so many different cultures within what I think what tries to happen is a monolithic culture, right? So you're really digging into and celebrating a lot of what there is to offer. So we're going to switch gears just a bit. We're still going to talk a little bit about dance. And that is, can you tell us a little bit about the significance of the costumes? And I'll start with you, Jose.
Well, as I stated earlier, each particular state in Mexico has its own representative costume and its own representative sound, its own music, and even its own dance step. Although some of it has a very basic step that you'll see in the next video montage at the very beginning. But each particular state has, its representative costume. Like what you see on screen now here is from the state of Jalisco. The picture on top from 2009, our very first performance at the Walters Art Museum. These were our handmade, home designed costumes. That the buttons that you see on the pants are all hand sewn one by one by each individual dancer. We didn't have the funds to purchase our costumes in 2009, but fast forward several years later, but now you see the costumes at the bottom. These are the authentic traje de charro, traje de mariachi that comes from Mexico. So these we purchased several years ago. The hats that are there now are outdated by a year. We have even newer, more fabulous hats that we purchased last year. But the group has grown with the state of Veracruz. back when we started in 2008, we didn't even have our own costumes. We had each individual go buy our own costumes from different locations. So everybody had a different set of whatever it was. Even if it was a performance dress, a practice dress, everybody was different. But over the years, we've grown to purchase our own costumes that stay as part of the group. So again, we try to be very representative of each state that's true to its form. But again, each particular dance group is able to take that state and make it its own. So you're allowed to make variations within the state, but as long as the basis stays the same, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it does. Yeah. And what about for you, Carlos?
We use the chaleco or the vest for the top, and the navilla. I don't know if you guys can pronounce that. It's a bottom piece, and it's a way to see like the Indian warriors or a guardian for Our Lady of Guadalupe. Then the navillas or the bottom piece are made with bamboo. So a lot of people haven't noticed that. Sometimes we use straws, like we just cut them in pieces, but the original they use bamboo, and we start using it. The first year we start using the first, I would say, the first 5 years we use uh, straws. Then we find the bamboo in their area, so we start ordering it, and now we can order it from Amazon and any other websites. So yeah, that's how we start.
And I see a comparison here of wanting to make sure you're representing the particular dance or group of dances in this very specific way. And of course, we don't all start with $1 million. And so trying to be resourceful, but also making those adjustments and just really fine tuning. And it really does show in your work that you've done here for our festival, but also, just through so many other spaces and institutions that you've worked in.
Yeah, that was years, like I would say around 10 years. The one on white and the one in pink was the last presentation that we had at Walter's Art Museum. I think that was last year, if I'm not mistaken.
That was 2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago, yeah. So I mean, we haven't changed the pink, so that's why I get confused. We're planning on changing it for next in probably next year or next 2 years, because we're coming with more. We're having the headdresses made with the feathers and all that. They're remade. We were gonna bring them this year, but because of COVID, everything stopped. But now they're made. They're just waiting for us to bring them.
That's wonderful. I also think there's opportunities just in the dress itself to show culture and to teach people who aren't performing. There's just so much cultural history, things that could be told through every component of what you all do in your performances. And so my next question is what kind of or what are the dances that we've seen in the Walters space for Dia de los Muertos, are all of them specific to Dia de los Muertos, or do they have maybe some other cultural significance or religious significance, or are they kind of secular and can exist in any space?
I would go with your last comment, secular. They could exist in any space. Although we do have one particular dance, which it's a very solemn dance. It's called La Bruja. And the next video, actually, this is it here in the screen. And this is, so La Bruja translated to English is called the witch. So fitting for Dia de los Muertos, fitting for Halloween, but not necessarily. It's just a very popular dance in the state of Veracruz. And I'm not sure if you can see here, in 2009, we had all the dresses were different. All the aprons that you see were different. Everything. Each individual dancer, pretty much made the best that we could at that point to make a cohesive unit. But several years later, all the ladies at the bottom, we all have matching headpieces, matching dresses, matching aprons. So we try to keep it very, very on point. But this particular region is very special to me because this is the state where my mother is from. So back many years ago in DC, she took me to see my very first performance of Ballet Folclórico Nacional de Mexico by de Amalia Hernandez, which is the world-renowned Mexican folk dance group. And that was the first time I ever got to see this in person, in live. And it was just like, wow, it blew me away. But this particular region called to me for some reason, but I didn't know at that time what it was. But then many years later, I realized that this is where my mother's from, where my family's from. So it's in my blood. This is the one region that you see it. And I mean, I enjoy every region when I dance, but this is the one where you just shine.
Well, that's wonderful. Oh, and I think we have an example here of some Veracruz montage.
And you can see how everything is uniform. The dresses, the aprons, the hairpieces is very uniform. And this is one of our signature dances that we haven't changed the choreography in almost 12 years.
I used to love the dance.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and those are dances from the state of Veracruz. And at the very beginning, you saw the video clip of me just doing a very basic step, which is one of the most important steps that we do. And it has a funny name because the combination, we call it café con pan. And I'll show it to you real quick, but I'm going to clap my hands, or you could do it with your feet. So on one foot, you're going to stomp twice. And then you're going to switch to the other foot, stomp once, and then switch to the other one and stop once. So if you do it correctly, you're going to do café con pan.
Yeah.
Café con pan.
And you drink it every day.
I think what is the misnomer is that I think these dances are more simplistic than maybe some of the other choreography, but they are by no means necessarily for a novice and will take some time, right? Like a lot of the work that you all have done really has been building on skills, not just for yourselves, of course, but for your students and the various age groups and how they learn. And so I think that's fascinating. For you, Carlos, are there particular dances? Do you have anything to add about how some of the dances are Dia de los Muertos specific and some may not be from your troupe?
We usually dance more to saints. We don't have any specific just for Dia de los Muertos. We dance to Our Lady of Guadalupe. That's the main day that we have this dance. Then if they invite us to another church, any other saint day or celebration, we're there. We've been in Saint in Catonsville, Saint Joseph, in many parishes around the area in Baltimore. Um, we haven't been out of state, just in Delaware and Pennsylvania, and Salisbury. We can hear you. Oh,
Oh, yeah. I wanted to stick with you, Carlos, and ask from you, because you mentioned in your video that you actually created your instrument. You fashioned it yourself. You made it yourself, and you often have, there it is. You
yep.
often show your instruments, and that's a part. Handmade instruments is a part of your dance troupe and a part of like the culture that you created. So I'm curious, how did that start? Oftentimes we don't just pick up creating instruments from scratch. So where did that come from?
When I was 18, I didn't know how to start. That was the beginning. So I remember I was at work. I used to work in construction, driving a whole truck. And while I was waiting for them to load me, I was handmaking. Like you can see how everything is not straight. So with a knife, I was just like going like that, one by one, and even the you can see this is bigger and this is smaller. So all this I did it by hand.
Wow.
Some of them like are crooked because I didn't know how to how to do it, but that was my idea of making them. Um, and then I learned when I was 12. That's when I started learning all these dance. Um, and that was the beginning of my dance group.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So you really were just honing your skill in your free time, which is that's incredible. And it's interesting that it is, as we see in this image to the left, it is an integral part to your dance troupe.
Yeah, it's one of the main instruments that we use, besides the maraca that we use. We go by the rhythm of the drum. So every like when we use both, we go and we keep going at the same rhythm as the drum. And we probably sometimes um, fill the spaces where the drum maybe like stays in silent. We follow it with the maracas.
That's wonderful. So I'm on my last two questions. So I want to remind our audience that if they have questions for these two wonderful gentlemen, please leave it in the comment section, and we will surely have them answered here in this program. I wanted to start with you, Jose, and ask, as a director, as you are both directors and you both share your culture, but I'm curious from you, Jose, like especially since you have one of the more foundational troupes in the city, what is the lesson you learned from directing your groups?
Well, that's a great question. I think one of the biggest things I take away from our group is the pride that I feel after performance. You see the dancers enjoying themselves. You see the audience responding to the dances. One thing I like to say at our performances, we're not a professional group. We're a group of the community, for the community. But one of our things we're also showcasing throughout the tri-state area is the beauty that not only Latinos bring, but the beauty that all immigrants bring to this country. This is a melting pot. We're showing hard work, dedication, culture, traditions. It's handed down. But one of the things I also enjoy about directing are the friends that I've made these past 12 years with Bailes de mi Tierra, from my very first dancers to my assistant directors who I've had over the years, Paloma, Yvette, who's with me now. It's a wonderful feeling to have these ladies give of themselves to help better Bailes de mi Tierra. The friends I've made with the community leaders, the Walters, the National Aquarium in Baltimore, Port Discovery, all throughout the city, I've made wonderful contacts. And then, with my current dancers and their families, the trust and the respect that they give me, because without them, we couldn't do what we do.
And what about for you, Carlos? What is the lesson that you've learned being a director?
One of the lessons I have learned through all this time is patience. That's one of the main things, and that's one of the things I learned with Jose. I was part of Bailes de mi Tierra at one point, and that's one of the things he taught me. Um, and from there, because my group was, I was in one point when I was kind of like disorganized. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what, like, how to go. So I learned that from Jose too. Um, and I started coordinating with a lot of people and families. We decide not just, it's not just a group, it's a family. So we start working together. The group that I've been teaching right now goes by generations. um, and the one that is wearing the pink right now started like 5 years ago. That, like, a whole brand new group changed. So that, with them, with the ones in green, they were the first group that was like kind of like pushing me to go forward. So in the pink, some of them left, they had to go, some of them work or family, anything. And we still growing. um and that's where we are right now.
Let me just jump in because Carlos made a good point there because you do have dancers that rotate out. But one good thing about our group, so I know with Bailes de mi Tierra, we welcome those. Anyone is welcome to come and join. You don't have to be Mexican, you don't have to be Latino to dance. If you want to dance, you come and you learn.
Yeah.
But one of the things that we also provide is a home for transplants. I have right now 4 families who are wanting to join, but because of COVID, we haven't been able to rehearse. Have some coming from Texas, some coming from California, from Washington State. So they're on standby waiting for us to return to practice. But this also provides them that familiarity because they used to dance in their home states, but they're relocating to Baltimore. They want to continue that, and we offer that. So that's one of the wonderful things that we do. Both of our groups do.
Yeah.
Well said. I figure we could sign off on the program before getting to questions with some links to your work. We have them here, but if there's any other place we should be checking you all out in, Instagram, anything else, we'll also share those links here on the screen for folks, and hopefully in the comments as well. But if there's anywhere else we could be following your work, please do feel free to plug that.
Sure. Right now we have our website, bailesdemitierra.com. Simple website to remember. You just write the name down.com and it pops up. It takes you to our videos, upcoming performances when we have them, past pictures, past video performances. And actually, there's a video from our very first performance in 2008 in Baltimore City at the church, Our Lady of Pompeii. So you'll see all that stuff from the very beginning to where we are now. As far as social media, we do have a Facebook page. And I think we have to redo our Instagram page. But for right now, just go to our website and you'll get all the information that you need.
And for me, you can look me up, Carlos Gutierrez, or I would say my whole name, Carlos Isidro Gutierrez Perez. That's how I'm on Facebook. And you can follow me there. And my name, the dance, I have one for Facebook, so you can just follow Danza Guadalupana de Baltimore. So if you guys want to follow me, I'm in there.
Perfect. And I just want to now take some questions from our audience. Thank you so much for sharing your work over the course of this program. So I see a lot of kudos, so I will just bring their names up and share some comments that we have. They're just some really wonderful comments. From Barbara Mora Lagos, they say that they have visited the museum several times and they remember this festival. From Paloma Garcia Lopez, great performances over on YouTube. From Claudia, she says, or Claudia Rosati, they say, I remember celebrating Latin culture under the leadership of Andrea Westpoint at the Walters and on many occasions. So a lot of, I think this will bring back, this particular presentation and video will bring back a lot of memories for fans of both of your groups and what you've done with our group, the Walters Art Museum. And then everybody else is saying they love Dia de los Muertos, and I think that is a huge credit to the work that you all have done. So if there, yeah, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say once for us is, well, it's sad this year because, we're not able to meet up and we're not able to dance and be there with the Walter in the community. But for us, this particular performance is one of our favorites of the year because first it marks our anniversary. We started in the fall of 2008. So I will say October 2008, the exact date, I don't know. But for us in 2009 to be invited for the Walters for that very first time was just an eye-opening experience because we had been in churches, we had been in schools, but this was the first opportunity we had to really be out amongst the community. And then every year after that, along with Dia de los Muertos celebration at the Walters has grown, we've grown along with it. So what used to be just in the sculpture garden or the sculpture court has now moved from the sculpture court to the performances being in the Graham Auditorium. And then you have the kids' rooms where kids are doing face painting and stuff. So it's just been a wonderful growth for both the Walters Art Museum for this particular event and then for Bailes de Tierra. And then I had Carlos join us several years ago. I think Carlos has been with us the past 3 or 4 years for Dia de los Muertos alongside of us. But then you had another Aztec group that was with us last year. But then I think the video you're about to see after this interview, Las Hermanas Gonzalez, who are two amazing singers. And you saw a clip of them in my first montage. But, we just bring the community together. And one thing about us here in this area, there's no competition. We enjoy what we do. We come together when we need to get together, and we enjoy that space together. So I want to thank the Walters for always inviting us, for the community for embracing us, and for our dancers, past and present, for being there with me along the way.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I mean, Walters have been there for us all the time, trying to motivate, and they've been helping me. Allison has been a greatest person, like all the time. She has been there. Like, thank you so much. I know she's probably watching us, so thank you, Allison, for everything.
Yeah, that's Allison Gulick at the Walters.
Yeah, our community programs coordinator.
And she's been amazing.
That happened.
She's been amazing these past few years, and I do remember Andrea Westpoint as well from when we first started. So yeah, the name just I remember all those names, and then just the staff at the Walters has been amazing behind the scenes as well.
Yes,
that's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you both Jose and Carlos, for being here with us today, sharing your stories, but also, hopefully bringing that feeling of the performance just a little bit to our audience. Also, just a big thank you to our digital team, including Allison, for playing assist on this program, because we wouldn't exist in this space without them. And an even bigger thank you, of course, to our audience, who continues to go to the celebrations in person, but also is joining us live right now and continues to watch our videos online. Our Dia de los Muertos celebrations this year are sponsored by PNC. I want to make sure that you all go check out the walters.org/events or the walters.org.com. If you just scroll down once, you'll see a great panel for Dia de los Muertos, and that will include our wonderful digital altar, community altar that you can participate in, art making for families, and also more live interviews like this. I think we have one more performance left with the wonderful group that Jose mentioned earlier. And so I want to thank you all once again. Thank you for this wonderful festival, and we'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day.
Gracias. Adiós.
Gracias.
Saludos.
Nos vemos.